In reference to the last week meeting, we were studying the architecture of the Mughals. Today's topic is somewhat connected to the same topic, and we were discussing the cooling system of the Mughals. What kind of cooling system they had introduced in their buildings or in their palaces and so on. But as a case study, we will look at the cooling system of the Lahore fort. So that is our topic for today. Now the temperature in the Pakistan subcontinent varies between two extremes. In winter, in certain areas, it can well be below freezing point, while in summer, it can touch up to 50 degrees Celsius. So that means the temperature in the subcontinent, almost most part of the subcontinent, except leaving out the Kashmir, etc., the temperature touches two extremes, too cold in winter and too hot in summer. So that is the ups and downs of temperature in our area, particularly in Lahore. The scorching heat of summer forced Mughal rulers to travel from Agra, Delhi, and Lahore to Kashmir. But whenever they had to stay in Punjab plains, they made adequate arrangements for comfortable coolness within the living spaces. So that is what the focus of our talk today is. And if you look at the temperature of Lahore, for almost past 2-3 centuries, it has remained like this. It is during the time of May, June, and July, it is at the top. And then comes the monsoon, when the rain comes, and the water, then even in the monsoon, it sometimes looks pleasant, but it becomes very muggy and close. What we say, when we say close, इसको हम कहते हैं हबस सा हो गया. So that is very torturing. So there is no pleasant thing in that also. But the worst months are May, June, July, and August, and so on. A very particular type of method which the Mughals used for cooling was the Bauli or the vow, which we discussed in our last lecture. And quickly, I just to memorize or just to refresh your memories, show you some picture of the Baulis. Baulis or vows were actually step wells, a long flight of steps descended to the water level. This is what we discussed in one of previous slides. So I'm not going to discuss them again. Then this is the Akbar's body, and here the different parts of the bodies are explained, and you can see the different parts are here. So there's different type of chambers and different type of allocation where the royal family was living, and the flight of steps descending to the royal body. And inner scenes of the body, and this is the body which was associated with the caravanserai of Fatehpur Sikri. And in this case, we see a number of wells, not only one well, but a number of wells which have got associated rooms. And that maybe these rooms were used as the bathhouses or something of that nature. So this is quite an interesting construction, a well here and well here, another well here, and then the room adjacent to it, and the deck running into the water or out of the water, something like that. And the body of the... Now let's go to our main topic today, and let's visit Lahore Fort. So first of all, the geographical location has to be studied where the Lahore Fort is located. Since in this map we see the subcontinent is here, this white area is the subcontinent, and this is our Pakistan. So Lahore is situated within this area, and we get closer to this. This is the area which will be focus our study today. And then slightly more closer to Lahore city, and this is the Lahore city, and you see this very close to the border. But this is one of the most important cities. If we take into view the history of the Mughal Empire, during the Mughal rule, the three cities were the main focus of their attention, and one was the Agra, second was Delhi, and third was Lahore. And Lahore became very important because a number of persons or rulers were born in this city, including the birth of Shah Jahan himself. So that is the importance that at times Lahore has remained the capital of the Mughals, particularly during the time of the Shah Jahan and that of the Jahangir. So the another map of Lahore, and so we are somewhere here now. And now this is where the Lahore fort is, and that will be the topic of our discussion right now. The Lahore Fort is situated at this place, and this area is the old Lahore along this line. And this slightly blue area is the old bed of the river Ravi. The river Ravi was flowing, touching the walls of the river, the walls of the fort. So that means the walls to the north, that is particularly this facade, the river was touching it and flowing over here. But during the course of the time, it shifted to another place, and that was this place. Now I remember during my childhood, I saw this small river flowing here, and either it was known as a Chota Ravi, or sometime it was known as a Buddha Ravi. Now even this Buddha Ravi has disappeared. There is no Buddha Ravi today. This area becomes the Minto Park, and then later it became Iqbal Park as it is today. So you can see the Iqbal Park over here. And this is the main road leading out of the city, which goes to the old Ravi Bridge or the new Ravi Bridge. So this is the location of the fort, which will be our discussion today. And getting closer to the walled city or getting closer to the topic of our subject, that is the walled city of Lahore. And now this is the map, perhaps one of the oldest map of Lahore which is available, and give you the facade of the old city and also the various bastions, which most of them have disappeared. Rather, no bastion is surviving. Maybe some gates are still surviving. And the names of all those gates are given here. Since we are not discussing the gates today, so I will just leave it to you. You can see the gates given on this map, but the location of the fort is over here. And then close to the Lahore fort, there is the Hazuri Bagh, which Mr. Zishan was discussing yesterday, day before. And then the Badshahi Mosque, which was once upon a time, or in the beginning, it was known as the Lal Masjid. Now, this is an old picture of Lahore Fort done by the Thomas Longcroft in 1808. And it shows you the river flowing, touching the boundary wall of the Lahore Fort. And this is all Lahore Fort. This wall is all Lahore Fort. From here to here, this is all Lahore Fort. And this most probably this area. This is the Lal Burj and Kala Burj and the Jahangiri Palace. And the Musamman Burj is here. And we can also see the minutes of the Badshahi Mosque over here. But the idea is to tell you that the river was flowing just touching the northern walls of the fort. This is yet another picture. The river is in full flow, and we can see in the background the Lahore Fort and various buildings of Lahore Fort. And this is the area which is in the north of the Lahore Fort, and the river was flowing over here. Today, between this building and the boundary wall over here, the boundary wall which is here on this side was built by Ranjit Singh when he was controlling Lahore, and he was controlling this fort also. Rather, this fort was his palace. He resided here, but this place was the bed of the old River Ravi. This remains the bed of the old River Ravi, but now since that time, it has changed. Over here, we now see a building which is attached to this building. Some people suggest that this is the same building where the people came for the justice, seeking justice from during the time of Jahangir, for which he became so famous, and Adil Jahangir is quoted as one of the best period of Adil and Insaf. But if this building is here and this is a court, but when at the same time we see that river was flowing here, so it doesn't seem appropriate that the court was here because the river was flowing here, and it was flowing in the time of the Mughals throughout. The change only came after the great floods. So the theory may not be right. So this area is the Karla Burj and this is the Lal Burj. And these domes are of the Jahangiri quadrangle from here to this one. And this building, which is very close to us, is a part of the Musamman Burj or the Sheesh Mahal. This is another picture of the olden time, a view of the Musamman Burj of Shish Mahal, part of the watercolor painting done by H.A. Oldfield. This was done in 1848. In 1848, this part on the northern side of the fort looked like this. Lot of groves, lot of trees. The river is still flowing here. And then this is the Shish Mahal, the back of the Shish Mahal at that time. Yet another picture. This gives a panoramic view from one side, one end of the Shahi Kila to the other end, and we see the three domes of the Badshahi Mosque, minarets of the Badshahi Mosque, and the rest of the building, and still locate the Mustaban Burj, the Shish Mahal, and the Kala Burj, and the Lal Burj, and the Jahangiri Palace over here. So these are good evidences to tell us that the river was flowing, touching the walls of the Lahore fort. This is yet another painting of the Musamman Burj by Dixon Brothers, done in 1854. And yet another picture by the Dixon Brothers. Same two painters made this picture also. And you can see the extent of the river Ravi at that time. Coming back to the city of Lahore, the two temperatures, the daytime temperature and the nighttime temperature, and you see the high rise is always during the time of the May, June, and July. And after that, after July, maybe after August, the descent starts. So the weather starts becoming pleasant as we move toward December. But when we move from January toward May, June, July, the weather becomes more and more horrible as it is these days. So the fluctuation is very much there. For example, even today, sometimes we have a rain and sometimes we do not have a rain. But in olden time, when the summer came, the rains disappeared altogether. There were no rains till the time of the monsoon, or in the local months, in the months of Sawan and Bhadon. And what are Sawan and Bhadon? We look at these 2 months later on during the course of our today's lecture. Coming back to the Lahore fort, I show you some of the most important part of this fort before we go to the discussion on the cooling system. You can see a road here. This is the road built by the Britishers. So they could enter from this gate, which is known as the Hathipur or Elephant Gate, and then could drive or go straight to this area, which is the area of Diwani Am. This building, which is the Diwani Am, was changed into a dancing hall by the British, and the area behind this became what we call a kind of gymkhana, where they sat and drank wines, etc., etc. But behind this, there is a quadrangle, which is known as Jahangiri quadrangle or Jahangiri Khwabga. In the middle, there is a pond, which is usually full of water. Then we have another pond over in this area. This also over here is the Baradari, which is known as the Diwane Khas. And the opposite of the Diwane Khas, there is a square garden, which has got 4 parts. It is not a Chahar Bagh because these 4 parts originally were not the part of garden, but they were ponds, 1, 2, 3, 4 ponds. And in between there were passages. In the middle where you find E, there was a platform, and on that platform, there was a fountain. This area is the mosque, and adjacent to the mosque, sorry, this area is the mosque, and adjacent to this mosque, this dot over here is a huge well from which the water was pulled out and supplied to the mosque and many other parts of the Lahore fort. But not only this well was supplying water, the water was being supplied from other sources also. And one of the most important source was the river water, which was taken out and then filtered and then supplied to the residents of the Lahore fort because the drinking water had to be cleaned or filtered. This is the area which is the Musamman Burj. We showed you this time, this Musamman Burj again and again in the slides which you just saw. So this is the Royal Palace. In front of it is the veranda. That is the Sheesh Mahal of this building, and in front of this there is a courtyard. In the middle of the courtyard there is a water pond, and that will become under our study today. So, and then now the yellow part. Digital fort is this one. The fort ends here along this line. There is nothing else. And the river was flowing over here, as we saw in the map before. This yellow area was built by Ranjit Singh because he was all the time fighting against his enemies, not only enemies from outside, but enemies from within also. A lot of Hindus and Sikhs was against him. So they were fighting against each other. And there was a time in history when the fort was under the control of Ranjit Singh, and opposite the fort, Balsai Mosque was under the control of his enemies. So they were shelling our fort from there, and Ranjit Singh was shelling them from here. And in the process, though, both buildings were being destroyed. And today, if you happen to go to Lahore Fort through the Hathi Gate, which is over here, you enter this area and start going upward, which is the passage used for the elephants. So you will see a lot of bullet wounds on the walls also. तो जो उस वक्त गोलियां वोलियां किले के अंदर भी चलती रहीं उनके निशान अब भी दीवारों पे मौजूद हैं. And it is good that those symbols have been retained by the conservationists. उनको destroy नहीं किया because that is a part of the memory. Anytime you visit this fort, go through the Hathi Gate and follow the passage of the elephants up to the Shishmar, and you can find the bullet holes in the walls of this area. So this is the contribution of Ranjit Singh. Other contributions are here. The red area is Akbar and Jahangir. The green area is Shah Jahan and Aurangzeb. Yellow is the Sikh area. And then when the British came, they added their own things like this road which is there today. You can enter and drive straight up to the Diwan Khas or some of the offices which are located here, offices for the management of the Lahore Fort. They also built quite a few barracks in this area also, not shown here. And they also made use of this area for their dining purposes and for their own enjoyment.